How are investors using their money to fuel the climate crisis and profiting from it too? Let's chat about it. Right now, I want to share something else crucial to understand about the border and surveillance industry. And investors are using their money to fuel the climate crisis and profiting from it too. In fact, they profit from the climate crisis in multiple ways, and I'm going to share some right now. Number one, this industry's investors play a pivotal role in the climate crisis by financing the fossil fuel sectors and agribusiness. And we all know those are responsible for increasing greenhouse gas emissions, as talked about in other videos. And the gross human rights abuses that are contributed from these sectors is greatly multiplied with the crisis. Unfortunately, even though they are so demonstrably bad, these industries are still profitable. One analysis on the World Bank data shows that the oil and gas industry has delivered $2.8 billion per industry in pure profit for the last 50 years. Agribusiness is second only to fossil fuels in driving the climate crisis. The management consulting over at McKinsey report found that food and reported agribusiness form a $5 trillion global industry that is only getting bigger. The cost of that to the people, animals, and land is even bigger. Every year, fires ignited to clear forests for industrial agriculture destroy millions of hectares of land customarily owned and managed by indigenous peoples and local communities. Global Witness reports that extractive industries drive protected land conflicts and systemic human rights abuses by forcibly grabbing land from indigenous peoples and local communities, razing cultural and sacred sites, destroying livelihoods, and unleashing violence and criminalization against those who resist. In 2020, at least 227 land defenders were killed worldwide for seeking to protect their traditional lands, but still the profits are there, and the Friends of the Earth report found that the large asset managers such as BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street all help to bankroll the climate emergency and to literally fuel, no pun intended, increasing global instability. There are plenty of receipts, and listen to this. Collectively, three of the biggest asset management companies, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, hold more than $650 billion worth of shares in the fossil fuel, agribusiness, and border and surveillance industries, companies that were surveyed by Friends of the Earth. Collectively, those companies, again, and let's name them for what they are, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, hold almost 1/3 of all shares in these very familiar fossil fuel giants like Chevron, ExxonMobil, and ConocoPhillips. In the dominant global capital structure, we applaud for success and wealth, but that isn't success. That leads us to number two, that the same global instability leads the second way those investors make money. They are also deeply invested in militarized borders and surveillance, and it's gross. The border and surveillance industry receives significant levels of financial support from institutional investors and governments. A 2019 forecast by Research and Markets Come From predicted that the global homeland security and public safety market would grow from the US of $431 billion in 2018 to the US $606 billion in 2024, which is a huge percentage of the annual growth rate. And according to the report, one factor driving this is climate warming, related natural disasters and growth. These big asset management companies are not only help to cause the crisis, they then facilitate human rights violations through their support of the border and surveillance industry. And that's the industry we're talking about today. And the industry is heavily in the business of separating families, eroding civil liberties, and promoting systemic racism and ethno-nationalism around the world. These same asset management companies make money on the other side too. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street hold around 32% of shares in CoreCivic and 38% of shares in GEO Group. These are the companies that operate private prisons and migrant detention centers linked to the widespread human rights abuses. If you learned something today from the border and surveillance industries, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as I have more videos covering this issue in a 4-part YouTube series. Every time that you like, comment, and subscribe on my work, it really helps me produce more independent media work, and thank you so much again.